My name is Evany Rosen, and welcome to ShowbizMonkeys.com.
Around this town, I'm alright. Around this town, I'm alright. I mean, no consequence when you playing with the fire.
How are you? Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
We met years and years ago.
Yes. I was doing press for JFL, and then you did the Winnipeg Comedy Festival, and
It's nice to see you again.
that was a long time ago, though.
It was at eons.
2011.
Oh God. Jesus. Just a swift 13 years. It's nice to see you again.
The last time we talked in 2011, it was Picnicface was doing a sketch thing at JFL, which was like a big deal because like sketch wasn't a common thing at JFL. And so things have gone pretty well for you since then. The last several years, you've been working on just tons of great shows in the writer's room, created a couple. Can you just talk in general about like the last few years and how your career has shifted and how you've enjoyed the experience, I guess? Yeah.
Enjoyed the shift. It's been since my start in sketch comedy and my short-lived underwatched series on the now defunct Comedy Network, Picnicface. I've been trying to keep busy. I've been more and more my career has become about writing. I still perform sometimes, and I usually tend to get cast in things when I created it and then don't have to audition. So that's kind of a scam I've been running. But yeah, in the last few years, I made a show for Crave with Kayla Lorette called New Eden. So that was my first kick at the can at really like full scope of show running and kind of the gauntlet of what that is. And then, more recently have made the show Davey and Jonesie's Locker, so it definitely interesting to come to the show running table having done it a second time. And with just the experience I managed to get in between in the writers' rooms I've been in on different things. Yes. How was that answer? Was that good?
That was great. That's a great jumping off point. So let's talk about Davey and Jonesie's Locker. You said it's come out recently, very recently, a week ago today. It was released on Hulu in the States and Amazon Prime Video in Canada, and I think other places too, if I read the press release right, like Australia and UK, Amazon Prime were part of the deal.
I believe it's Australia and New Zealand, and I assume Australia, Tasmania.
Yeah. That's part of Australia, isn't it?
This is for Tasmania, this show. They're going to get all over it.
So now it's out in the world. You've obviously been working on this for a while. Can you bring us through the process of like where the idea came from and developing it to getting to actually shoot it and have it come out? It's obviously, I'm sure, been a wild, probably year or 2 years or however long that process has been.
Yeah, it's been, I think fully it's been, about 2 years, the process, and, a year and a half of that sort of, from when production started. Mm-hmm. And basically the genius of it was, I had connected with AJ Trouts at Marble Media, and we had been sort of figuring out, wanting to work together on something. And I knew, in kind of the teen space, something that was sort of activating for me is that I really wanted to write a show, and I really like writing about female friendships and relationships. And obviously the relationship in New Eden is not a healthy friendship. But, in my years writing on Baroness and I just wrote on a show called Spencer Sisters. So, female relationships are very much in part of my main wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to write a show about best friends in high school where, I feel like often female characters and girl-driven shows for that demographic tend to be more dramedy, coming of age. It's always girls having to kind of find themselves and figure out how they fit in. And sometimes there's not as much space for girls to just be funny first. Mm-hmm. And almost politically for me, that was something I really wanted to explore a show about these two girls who don't need to fit it. Like they got it dialed. Everyone else needs to kind of adjust to their energy, but really a show where these female characters got to be funny first and that was the place it was coming from. But I didn't have a full shape for that. And then AJ had approached me basically with just a title. he was like, I have this sort of title kicking around, Davey and Jonesie's locker, something in a high school with a locker, and something's going on with the locker. Do what you will with that. So I went away and kind of noodled on that and came back with this pitch for this kind of multiverse idea, because I'm also a big sci-fi person, and I love camp. And I thought, oh, this would be a really fun kind of playground to develop. So I started developing that, and Hulu got on board, and then Amazon pretty quickly, which was cool and intense. And we started writing, yeah. And then of course the classic, then you shoot it and then you edit it and then you give it to them and then they put it on television, which brings us to a week ago.
Yeah, I'm curious with pulling in, like, obviously we live in an era, there's a lot of TV out there, so you see genre smashing more often these days than you used to. But like the idea of like female driven teen comedy kind of high school thing with multiverse isn't something you've seen a lot of on television or elsewhere. So yeah, like I'm curious what kind of, like you said, you're a sci-fi fan, and obviously you've been working on these like female friendship kind of shows. What did you draw from to put those together in? Like I've watched 3 episodes myself so far, and like it clearly works. So like yeah, what did you kind of bring together to come to a place that like made sense and like really worked, combining the comedy with the sci-fi aspect of it?
Well, first off, thank you for saying that it makes sense. I'm just waiting for Reddit to come for me on all the sci-fi holes. But yeah, I think in this way that I wanted to kind of put my own spin on a female driven teen, like high school show where it was kind of funny first, and then also wanting to put a spin on the multiverse, because obviously that's something that's very in the zeitgeist right now. So I wanted us to have a different take. And I think often we think of multiverse things as very Marvel, very high budget, very MCU energy. And I wanted, obviously, just with the budget we were working with, but also with just the vibe of this show, I wanted to look at what like the multiverse in kind of a low stakes capacity would feel like. That felt very funny to me. And, kind of thinking practically about how can we like redress the same school and have it be these different universes each time. Because the premise is essentially that these 2 best friends are like really over high school, they're bored. And then so like lucky for them that, it turns out that their science teacher is a disgraced quantum physicist who's put a portal in their locker that they get sucked through. So they're like, okay, bitch, and we're on this adventure. But then of course, the burn on them is that they're just going to alternate versions of their high school, surrounded by alternate versions of the peers they thought they were escaping. So it was really about like, okay, how can we kind of redress and reimagine this space and these same characters every time and have that be interesting? So for me, making it work was as much about not just the story and the comedy, but the tone visually and kind of embracing very campy energy, embracing the kind of B sci-fi that I love. There's a lot of Star Trek in there. There's a lot of inspo from that. And I watched a lot of Sliders while
oh yeah. I remember Sliders.
Yeah. But I wanted to have that tactile feel and kind of practical effects and kind of puppety type things and things that felt, that gave that kind of the wonky robot comes out in like a 50s sci-fi movie type of way. As part of kind of baked into the aesthetic, rather than going, big on the effects that are for Marvel budgets. So that was kind of how it came together in its strange but fun kind of tactile way.
Well, and I love this conceit, and obviously like budget might have played a part, but also just the way some of these teen-centric shows work, or just sitcoms work. Like you look at a show like Community, where like everything took place in the community college, no matter what. But like to then throw the multiverse into it, and yet they're just still always in this school, despite traveling through like all these universes. It's very amusing that they're just kind of stuck in this school, no matter what. Yeah, and how we had to approach that too is like, yeah, in theory, the genre is like, okay, teen comedy and multiverse, but really, and then there's the sci-fi element of that, but really, a big part of the game was like then mapping even more genres onto it and layering onto that. So like episode 2 is kind of like a Logan's Run send up.
And episode 7 starts as kind of a Riverdale energy that then turns into a Terminator shape that gets pretty weird. But we had a lot of fun with the kind of mapping and references that you could kind of do, and hopefully for an audience watching now, having fun, with references they recognize, and also ones that maybe they're like, what's this? Because I always remember, I feel like our generation growing up a lot watching The Simpsons, and you'd be like, I get some of these references, but it's fun to not get the ones I don't get yet. Yeah. And then to go back and then get them or look them up or whatever it is. So I feel like there's kind of a fun Easter egg game there with all the winks going on.
Well, yeah. And obviously I'm watching it from the perspective of a 40-something guy. So there might be references I'm getting because of the, age I'm at and all of that. But the show is, obviously I like it, so it's works for different age groups and all of that, but it's targeting a teen audience, a YA audience, that kind of thing. I read one review, just a user review in the last couple of days, where someone said they binged the whole season with their kids and then were already on the second viewing.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So obviously it works for the whole family and all ages. Compared to some of the other work that you've done, having a show that's targeting that audience, were you purposely thinking differently, writing the show?
Honestly, in a lot of ways, no. And I you'd think I would be. And certainly I've written a lot of animation as well. And there I'm really thinking about the demographic and stuff like that, which is a bit younger. But with this show, because for can sort of live in a slightly older teen space, beyond the constraints of just content being appropriate for the demographic, I sort of didn't. I feel like there's a way that teens always, and especially now, can just smell inauthenticity a mile away and smell pandering. It's why teens are so terrifying. So I really was like, the way to do this is not to try to create a show for what I think a modern teen would think is cool, because it would be immediately uncool. So I approach it in just a way to be like, I have to think it's funny, and I have to think it's cool, or at least unapologetically authentic and unapologetically kind of what it is, in the way that the characters are kind of unapologetically who they are, and they're a bit out of step with their own generation even. And I felt like if I was able to do that well and honestly, then it would, I hope, be appealing, because I think there's also an evergreen kind of universality to it. And the true trick, actually, the true scam here is that half of the reason it's set in the multiverse is so that I could create a show where nobody had their phones and I didn't have to try to incorporate social media into the storyline, I was like, that is the hack, actually.
Yeah. And then you mentioned earlier that, being a creator of these shows, you can cast yourself. Which is a nice little bonus. So you play the principal in this show and in all the multiverses. How was the experience working with the cast directly, not just from a showrunner perspective, but also then as a fellow actor?
Oh, so fun. I mean, the cast of the show is just, they're unbelievable. I got so lucky. I can't believe how perfect everyone feels in their roles. So for me, it was very fun to kind of get to jump in and play with them now and then, especially because as the showrunner, I'm very around, but I'm not, I'm other places when I'm not literally in the scene. So it was an opportunity to kind of engage and interact with them in this different shape. And they're all just so funny and talented. So it was a blast.
Yeah. And very well cast.
Thank you.
Especially Davey and Jonesie are just so perfectly cast and play their roles so well. Their
chemistry is heaven to me, and exact everything I imagined and more.
I'm sure. Yeah. It makes your job easier and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And the casting process was really involved. I feel like I saw every single teen actor in North America at one point when we were, but when we found Veronika and Jaelynn and they did their first chemistry read, and it was over Zoom, and it was they were immediately somehow both from Barrie and chatting about this, and they were it was like they had been best friends for years and they had just met on Zoom. And Allison, the director, and I were just we found them. This is them. They're fully realized.
Absolutely.
So we were very lucky.
I'm just curious, looking through the last few years with all the writers' rooms you've worked on, and now you've created a couple shows. Are you thinking at maybe the next stage, or maybe even if this show gets a season 2, that kind of thing? Have you thought about the directing side of things?
It's definitely been something that has been on my mind or come up more recently, and especially in the process of doing Davey and Jonesie, and just with New Eden, we had a huge amount of creative oversight, but we were in every scene. We were the two leads, so it was kind of a different experience. Whereas in this, yes, I do play the principal, but I'm not in it that much. Right. So I really got to have the process of taking every little detail through. And I am interested in that next step or that last layer of really getting to do that and seeing it through and kind of learning that side of things. But also I have a huge amount of respect for what directors do and how difficult that job is. So I also don't want to be cavalier and be like, I'll just get back behind the camera. No problem.
Well, yeah. And you obviously have good directors on this season. The show. Wonderful
directors on this season, an incredible DP who's extremely supportive. So I definitely think if I were to step into that role for the first time, it would be a great opportunity to do, I think it's great to do it for the first time in your own work, because then you know the vision you're trying to exact, and you're not learning those skills while you're trying to ensure that someone else's vision is done correctly. So I think that would be very an exciting, cool experience. Slightly terrifying, but I'm already wearing so many hats. Might as well just add one more to the noggin.
That's true. And then, you did mention that you've been in some other writers' rooms more recently. Obviously, while you're working on this show, this has probably consumed your life more than anything. But Spencer Sisters was pretty recent as well. So do you have anything else coming up where you're working on things, or are you really focused right now on whether it's this show or another show coming up, like working on your own projects more so?
I mean, it's always a balance. It's almost like, you do one for a while and then it's fun to do the other one. And then, So obviously, there's of course hope that Davey and Jonesie might have more life in it yet. So that's, we're that's still part of what we're contemplating at the moment. But should that not happen, or when Davey and Jonesie reaches its natural end, I think, there's always a way that when you come up with a show, people are like, any other ideas? And they're like, no, man, I'm tapped.
You've been putting all your energy into this one thing.
Yeah. But I love to create my own work, and it's so exciting. And I also love the opportunity of getting to support other people's visions and step into the room and keep myself sharp that way. And because being able to adapt to other people's ideas, I think, and writing styles also allows you to be better in your own work. So who knows? Hopefully I won't be unemployable, but I love doing both.
And then, one just last little thing that I noticed that I thought was fun, especially when you're talking about like comparing it to like the MCU of it all and those bigger kind of projects that typically tackle the multiverse and stuff. Right away, the first scene of the show, you've got the character wearing the New Eden on the sweatshirt.
Well spotted.
So I caught that right away. And so just, a nice little Easter egg. Like that's a thing that's big in the Marvel stuff. So it was nice to see that thrown in there in a multiverse teen comedy show.
I'm so glad you caught that. That was because my Nicole Manick, who is the greatest wardrobe designer of all time, and who did New Eden and who did Davey and Jonesie with me. And then actually for keen-eyed fans, Hanan Yunus, who plays the gym teacher who's wearing that, is a main cast member in New Eden. So once we knew we had Hanan in it, Nicole and I were like, oh, we got to get the New Eden sweatshirt in. And actually, another Easter egg, but this is more the MCU of my own life. But Jaelynn, Jonesie, in that opening episode is wearing an Evil Men t-shirt, which is my husband's podcast, and he plays the character of Andy. So that's also, that's kind of my personal life MCU getting its own Easter egg in there. All the branding.
Yeah, it's good to get it all in. It's a multiverse show. You have to have all the fictional stuff, the reality stuff. It has to all be in there.
Yeah, so there's my bank password somewhere in there if you look closely, but I won't tell you which episode.
You got to go multiple episodes. There's like a little bit in each, and if you figure it out.
That's how I get people to watch the whole show. Yeah, that's how I get the numbers up.
Well, I do hope people are watching the show. If they're in the US, they can watch it on Hulu. If they're in Canada, they can watch it on Amazon Prime. It really is fun. I'm excited to watch more of it. This was arranged very quickly, and the show only came out a week ago, so I've only watched through almost 3 episodes so far. But I'm already very hooked and can't wait to watch through the rest. I can understand how that family binged it so quickly. It's a very bingeable show.
Oh, that's so kind, Paul. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to getting to the twist at the end of episode 3. It's very stupid. So that'll be fun for you.
I'm almost there.
Oh, yeah. The song we, believe it or not, paid the second most for in the entire show is coming up at the end of episode 3. And you will be surprised by what it is, I think.
Okay. Well, I can't wait.
Yeah.
I might just experience that immediately when this is done. So
bless you. And it was so nice to chat. And thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'll see you again in 13 years.
Okay, sounds great. I like that schedule for us.